And it's take two for the space weather! We're looking at the sun at 94 angstroms, and we saw a small B-class X-ray flare emanate from this cycle 25 plage down here, and you can see it here in the 94 angstroms view. That's why we're showing you. Stay tuned to the end. We'll show you the colorized magnetogram and ask you to enter a poll. Here's the 171 angstroms view. And the poll is about this plage right here. And there you can see that B-class X-ray flare. We don't see any ejecta associated with this. We did see a 6.9 magnitude earthquake downgraded to a 6.6. Anyway, here's the GOES X-ray imager. And here's that small X-ray flare. It's a little B-class, just a B1, very small flare. And again, no apparent ejecta associated with that. And there you can see it on the graph, a B1 class X-ray flare. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind, which has been hovering right around 180 degrees. Magnetic connections with those incoming coronal holes. Solar wind density has ramped down to 4 protons per cubic centimeter, and solar wind speed has ramped up to 408, so it looks like a fairly slow, fairly diffuse coronal hole wind stream there, and it looks like it's leveling off to me. What do you think? Here's the ACE data, which is looking pretty corroborative to me. And the magnetosphere movies are looking pretty uninteresting, but we'll let it play through anyway to get you your standard 4 hours. And we don't see very much when it comes to ground magnetic perturbations either, but we'll show the data anyway for the purposes of archiving. By the way, folks, don't forget to vote today. If you don't vote, how can you complain about politics? I know some people are very anxious about the 2020 election, so go out and do a dry run and go vote today. For instance, I'll be voting against all Democrats for one obvious reason. Because in Pennsylvania, at least in Lehigh County, where I live, all the Democrats are voting for a property tax increase, and everybody else is voting against it. So screw them. And the 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back up to 71. So on or above this orange line here that we've drawn in at 70 solar flux units. It dropped down to 69 briefly and then right back up to 71. Not very much of a surprise with so much activity on the sun. So here's the GOES magnetometer, still looking a little bit choppy, and we're going to continue to see irregularities in this instead of smooth waves like you see here. Thanks, new viewers, by the way. Thanks to our new patron. And these N's and M's for you new people out there stand for noontime and midnight time for the satellites. So the GOES 14 has just passed midnight, and the GOES 14 has just passed midnight also. You can see right there. And it looks like their fields have crossed. No big deal there. Let's look at the latest data from the Gong 2 on the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And you're going to see a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war here. The North Pole is shown in green. That's the North Pole portion of the current sheet, the heliospheric current sheet, a sheet of plasma that the sun is constantly spitting out in a spiral. And this data is 2 hours and 2 minutes old. Just keep in mind that the magnetic environment can change at any time with absolutely no warning. Here's the last frame, and you can see some North Pole current sheet showing up there in the magnetometer data. By the way, this data is derived from about 50 ground-based magnetometers, as well as magnetometers on stereo A and stereo B, located here on the right. KP is at 1, and possibly a ramping down of the KP index already here. Probably going to be back to 0 soon. We're not going to do cosmic rays today. If you want to see yesterday's video, for instance, go check out yesterday's video. And we did leave links to the Cosmic Ray Station also. I'm sorry, the website that has all the stations that we use regularly. And the electron flux is looking pretty nominal here. The relativistic electrons are looking a little on the high side. And the ionosphere is looking a little bit anomalous, especially on the sun-facing portion. It's what I would call anomalously discharged on the sun side, and there's some oddities in the fact that the northern hemisphere, the Tropic of Cancer, is lighting up more than the Tropic of Capricorn, despite it being, you know, spring in the south. So a little anomalous there. And here's the latest image coming in at 9:30 UT. Pardon the lateness on the video, folks. This is the second time we're trying to shoot it. Let's go through the earthquakes, as we did see a 6.6 near Fiji. First on the list is a 10:30 UT quake. That's the time, 10:30 UT, coming in at a 4.9 magnitude. Right in Central Asia there. Check that out. Looks like quite far from plate boundaries. And next we see a 5.2 at Chile. We also saw a 6+ magnitude quake in Western South America. We'll get to it in a minute. Here's a deep quake at Japan at 4.2 magnitude. And here's a 4.9 at the Philippines. Followed by a 4.6 at Russia. This one coming in at, it's actually closer to Japan than Russia, really, but that one coming in at 1552 UT. Followed by a 4.7 at Indonesia. Here's a 5.3 at Tonga. That's a deep quake south of where the major quakes happened. And they'd happened shortly after. So we see this 6.1 at Chile, that one coming in at 4:21 this morning. I'm sorry, not 4:21. This coming in yesterday evening at 21:53. And this large quake in Tonga coming in just before midnight UT at 22:43. No tsunamis associated with those earthquakes, folks. I checked all of the different sources, so no apparent tsunami generated from that quake. Next, we see a 5.5 at Tonga. Looks like an aftershock to me. Here's a 4.0 at Chile. My favorite place for the magnitude 7 drought to end is someplace in Western South America. This is a massive 7 magnitude earthquake drought, folks. We're a huge drought of earthquakes. So let's just hope we don't see an 8 or 9 magnitude earthquake. Next, we see a 4.9 at Tonga. Looks like an aftershock. The next 4+ magnitude quake comes to Guam. Please leave a comment if you're viewing the videos from Guam. Somehow I doubt it, but leave a comment anyway. Leave a comment for no reason at all. Also, we see a 4.0 at Puerto Rico. And we see a 4.7 out in the Aleutian Islands there at Alaska. And I don't know why that zoomed in. I did not do that. All right. So there's that 4.7 out in the Aleutians. And again, we do see some increased volcanic activity out there. We'll get to it after we look at pressure maps. And here's where things are now, courtesy windy.com. And we'll just let that advance about 24 hours. We see 2 very strong high-pressure systems there in the northeast Atlantic, as well as another anticyclonic area there over western Canada. And another anticyclonic system right over my head. And let's hit pause and move on, as there's a ton of stuff to cover yet. We got to get through it all and get the video up. Again, pardon the lateness. Volcano rundowns, this huge list. Mount Abiko, producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. Mount Aso, 9,000-foot ash plume there. Sakurajima, exploding, 13,000-foot plume there. Sanjiang Api, 10,000-foot ash plume, explosive activity. Krakatau back to exploding, only a 2,000-foot ash plume there. Still don't jump your dune buggy over Krakatau. Mount Dakono, continuously emitting, producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. And here's another new one on the list here. We've seen the warning level go up for this volcano, Shishaldin, in the Aleutians. Some magma coming out of it, some incandescent light, some volcanic debris flows. Also Popocatépetl, possibly emitting, Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 27,000-foot plume there. Copihu, unable to detect that one, probably due to satellite clouds. And Nevados de Chilean exploding, producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Please don't do the triple Lindy over Copihu. Here's where things are now in the solar system, and here's where they'll be in 6 days. And we're only going 6 days ahead, because who knows what happens on 11/11, November 11th. What's going to happen? Anybody? 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 The transit of Mercury. Oh yeah. It'll be visible in these areas. If you've got your eclipse glasses, maybe attach them to a set of binoculars. This guy used a T-box here. He's got an instructional video on the page. We've linked to it, like practically everything else we visit. It's a Universe Today article, and it will be the last transit of Mercury until November 13th, 2032. So get a look at that if you have the ability. Also, the best times will be expected to be around sunset. And again, there's the viewing area, and here is the path that it'll take. Here's where stuff is above my head. It's 5:23. Do you know where your constellations are? Anyway, check out in-the-sky.org. If you want to make yourself a sky map, just click on All Sky Map. So we do see some lightning here, especially off the coast of Florida. And here's a U.S. Doppler radar on Weather Underground. Check out this Greta Thunberg death metal song. How dare you? We've linked to that also. Don't try to ban us, Facebook. So check it out. We got some interesting meteorological phenomenon that we shared yesterday on the Instagram page. So follow us there if you don't follow us on Instagram yet. You'll see some other content that you can't get anyplace else. And I swear it'll play. Come on, Facebook junkware. There we go.
I had to take a video of that. Look at that amazing fall streak hole. That's a perfect example of a fall streak hole, a very rare atmospheric phenomenon.
So that's called a fall streak hole, by the way, folks. And here's a different phenomenon here. This is like a, I think that looks like a trilobite or something. It's a crazy example of current flowing through the atmosphere, and it's sometimes you get these effects when you have these homogeneous type of cirrus clouds. These are probably actually cirrostratus clouds. They look like cirrus, but it's more of like a low cloud. And if you notice, this looks exactly like the diagrams that you see of a cosmic ray particle shower, as Hall currents flow through the atmosphere, which is a semiconductor, and that's your meteorology lesson for the day. Also, check this out. We saw this on the visible satellite last night, as we saw funky cloud formations over PA all day. Come on, Facebook junkware. I know you can play. There we go. Is it going to work? There it is. Oh my gosh. Praise Mark Zuckerberg. Instagram software works. Anyway, you can see these two clouds suddenly form. They look like giant fangs coming out of the sky. It's not HARP. It's not contrails. It's not chemtrails. The resolution on these maps is 2 kilometers. And let's move on to talk about bacon levels in cold storage in the U.S. reaches a 48-year high. Looks like bacon costs are going to go down. And why did it happen, folks? Because of the trade war. This is what tariffs do to the economy. And if you thought tariffs were a bargaining chip, well, it screwed over the farmers who tried to leverage a possible deal into their pig farming practices, let's say. Here's a water vapor map of that convergence zone off of Florida. And here's the zoomed out image. Let me speed that up. There's a zoomed out image. It looks like more snow could be hitting Montana in the coming, probably going to be eastern Montana, as it looks like the jet stream is shifting to the east. Here are the western jets via Null School. You can see that giant anticyclone in the northeastern Atlantic. And here's the eastern world. And let's move on to that is censored and that is a sinkhole, the part where we encourage our viewers to understand the distinction between their you-know-what and a hole in the ground. Were you aware that Voyager just left the heliopause and is out in interstellar space now? Well, we left links to this jet propulsion, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory page, the timeline of Voyager, and here's a visual representation of the spiral courses that they took to get out of the heliosphere. Voyager 1 leaving north of the ecliptic plane, and Voyager 2 punching out south of the ecliptic plane. And we saw some interesting measurements here. The fields are very homogeneous outside. We did see some anomalies from Voyager 2 inside. There was some leaky plasma going on there. But the space outside the heliosphere appears to be quite homogeneous. The fields appear to be parallel from the perspective of the two spacecraft shown in this diagram. The other thing to understand about this is that now they did pass out of the heliosphere 6 years apart, but the distance to cross the heliopause is remarkably uniform, and really the front of the interstellar bow shock is quite spherical in shape. So basically the Sun and the solar system would be moving from left to right, and Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 left the heliosphere in those locations on purpose for that reason. Have you pressed like and subscribe on YouTube if you enjoy the content? Well, please do, because we've got all kinds of issues. And like shadow bans, for instance. So if you see our video not go up, perhaps check BitChute, although it's not up there today. And please support the channel via Patreon, as YouTube pays us precisely $0 for these videos. So become a patron. Check out patreon.com/smAsho. We just put a public poll out there talking about whether the most easterly plage near the solar equator will turn into a sunspot or degrade. Let's talk about polars real quick. Polars are a type of cataclysmic variables, and there's an interesting article about things with catchy names such as RxJ08591+537 and RxJ0749.1-0549, which, you know, if you're on a first name basis with this thing, you just call it RxJ0749. And not to mention RxJ0649.8-0737. And these cataclysmic binaries, they have a massive field, as a white dwarf appears to be siphoning plasma off of a binary neighbor. He also did link to the Neil Gorell Swifts Observatory if you want to look up other things with catchy names, such as CXOM31004211.37+414042551. Let's talk about polars, the type of cataclysmic binary star systems. Here you can see a diagram of looks like a red giant having plasma siphoned off of it, and that's probably got something to do with the magnetic field, although they really don't know how those are generated. And so we've linked to this as well, folks, so read up about that if you like. Here's an example of one, V1500 Cygni, as well as AM Hercules. And let's talk about this new study suggesting that the universe might be a closed sphere and not flat. And just read the article. We're not going to say the word gravitational lensing. Oh, did I say the word gravitational lensing? Oops. Did I say the word dark matter? Oops. Did I say the word cosmic microwave background? Oh no. Now we've really devolved, right? Much of the data seems to be in support of a flat universe, kind of like a flat Earth, rather than a closed one, except for that 1A lens anomaly. Like a pebble in your shoe or a burr down your shirt. It just keeps on niggling. And that's a great verb they've used there. Thanks, phys.org. Oh. Thanks, Science Alert. By the way, to quote Robitaille, the cosmic microwave background has a 1.5 signal-to-noise ratio. So I don't know how much you know about signal processing, but a 1.5 signal-to-noise ratio. And thanks, Smash Team. Stay tuned for 2 bonus features. First one is 10 hours of colorized magnetogram of the local yellow dwarf. which we commonly call the sun. It doesn't have some weird name with a bunch of letters. And we are interested in this plage right here underneath my pointer. That plage right there. Check out patreon.com/smAsho. There's a public poll there. Go and put in your vote on whether you think that's going to become a sunspot or degrade. I've already voted, and what I voted is a secret to not affect everybody else's votes. And I also wanted to briefly bring up the 193 angstroms view. We do see a little bit of activity going on the North Pole here. Another indication that solar activity is increasing, and that's a good thing. Here's the view from the equator. And here's the view in the south, complete with time and date stamps. You can see that B-class flare kicking off. Again, we didn't see any ejecta from the perspective of stereo A. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please press like and subscribe. Please share on your social media. Please share with your local science nerd or astrophysicist or cosmologist or local cosmology club, perhaps. Stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments like a solar filter or perhaps the SDO or maybe the SOHO. And when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins. And now it's time to exit stage south.